Today we are going to talk about the double exposure project and how to inlay a picture like this within a picture while also showing some of your details of your face and that sort of thing. And making a finer selection using the channels. For instance, here, the selection was so good it got my eyelashes in there, or some of the finer points on my hair and that sort of thing. So we're going to be looking at that today. First, though, we want to get our selection. Now, normal method, how would we normally come out and select just our portrait, ourselves? What would we probably use? What would you use? If I asked you to select this out, what would you use? The person watching this video is going to be like Dora the Explorer yelling at the screen. The magnetic lasso, okay? So that is one way we can do it, but then you get into this situation with the hair where it's maybe not as easy to select kind of those baby hairs, those crazy hairs, okay? So we're going to do the selection using the channels option on Photoshop. Ruth, will you hit the lights, please? Thank you. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to don't zoom in a ton, just get Control 0 so that you're at a decent size. Go ahead and come here to channels. Okay, so it's instead of using layers, we're going to use channels. And just kind of click on some of these channels here, and they're just basically a grayscale version of each one of the red, green, and blue. Okay. We want to pick the one that is probably the most contrasting, which I would say in this case is blue. So select the blue channel. Okay. It's okay if your picture, your portrait is extra dark, you lose some features and things because we're actually going to black out our face and make the background really white and have a stark contrast. Okay, so with the blue layer selected, go ahead and click and drag it down to I call it the little sticky note, and that's going to duplicate that layer, or that channel, sorry. So if you click and drag it down to the sticky note here, the blue, it's going to create a blue copy, and this is the one we're going to edit and play with. Okay. After you have that done and you have blue copy selected, how do I get my levels? Control L to get my levels. And I want you to actually drag so that we have a good contrast. The whites of your background gets much whiter and you get much darker. Okay? You don't want to go too far because see, we'll have some things creep up over here. And basically what that is just the glare off of the whiteboard. Okay, so for some of you, you might see some black shadows pop up over here, and that's okay because we'll color those white. But you want to kind of get it dark so that you start to create a good contrast with your hair. Okay. Let me zoom back out, maybe. Get a good contrast on everything. Again, if you're getting some white shadows because of the whiteboard, that's fine. If your whiteboard is turning more into a gray board, okay, you might want to back off on this. Like here, you can see that I took this back. You can start to see the shadows of the whiteboard. I'm just kind of trying to highlight. I don't want to go too far and start to lose some of my face. Okay, so you want to kind of try to keep the outline of your silhouette while still making the whiteboard whiter and the darks darker. Okay, so for me, I'm actually going to go about there. Okay, I could go even more if I wanted to, but then my hair kind of gets a little crazy, so I want to, and then some shadows start to creep up back here, down here, so I want to kind of play with that a little bit. Okay, so if you are having, or when you're good or satisfied with your image, you're going to go ahead and say okay. And as some of you have pointed out, your background maybe isn't as white, so like down here there was some shadows, and so you can really kind of see those. Some of you have, that glare over here with the picture. So we want to, again, make those white. So what we will do is we'll press B to get to our brushes. Go ahead and press D to set your brushes back to default. So white will be on top and black on bottom. And with your brush, go ahead there we go. Go ahead and come down here and brush your item. Now you want to make sure that you don't get into your actual silhouette, so that's where you may actually, Garrett, can I put your screen up? Okay. So Garrett has some white on his shirt here, and so that's where he might actually want to come in with the lasso tool and just kind of make a selection. You might draw it better than I do. Oops. Make a selection here. And then get his brushes tool with the white. Control-Shift-I to invert. And then he can come in here and really white out and get along those lines, now being careful about the back of his neck. There we go. Really white out there so that that's there. But again, I didn't make my selection all the way out, so you don't want to do that. But just an idea there. So I'll deselect and let you work with that. Okay. So everybody's selections are different. So my background didn't have the glare as bad. It was pretty easy to make it a contrasting white along with my silhouette, as some of you found with having even like a light blue shirt on or a light pink shirt on. Those things were a little harder to get that contrast, whereas like I was wearing that maroon sweater, so it did make a difference. Okay. So if for whatever reason you're not selected anymore, we're going to get you selected by clicking Control and then clicking on this icon of this blue copy. And so what that actually is going to do is it's going to select everything around you. So what do I need to do to get it to only select you? Control-Shift-I to invert. Okay. Come back over to Layers. Come back over to your Layers panel. And go ahead and Control-C and Control-V to get a copy of you, maybe. So click on Layer 0, Control-V to paste that copy of you. Yes. So I'm going to back up. So go ahead, turn on RGB. I missed that step. Turn on RGB, Control-click on blue copy to select everything but you, basically. Control-Shift-I to invert. Jump on over to Layers. Make sure your layer is selected. Control-C, Control-V to make a copy of you. And here, because now you have this easy selection, you could actually come in, make a new layer below, get the gradient or the bucket, get my gradient tool, make a nice gradient behind me with a good selection. You could do a lot of things there. Now you can see that maybe my selection wasn't as perfect, but for the purposes of this assignment, that's not going to matter as much. Okay?